critical reception.
Back to Black has faced criticism on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb for its treatment of Amy Winehouse's story. Key issues include sensationalism and exploitation. Critics argue the film sensationalizes Winehouse's struggles with addiction. In doing so, she is portrayed as merely a tragic figure at the expense of exploring her humanity or artistry. The consensus comes off that this is exploitative and disrespectful. Historical inaccuracies. The film has been criticized for inaccuracies, particularly in portrayal of key figures of Winehouse's life, such as more sympathetic depiction of Blake Filder Civil than many believe he deserved. I get it. Yes. Maybe he's portrayed nicer than he should be. Maybe he helped make the film more. Amy's not around anymore. Who knows what happened. I also know there's divorces. And in divorces and breakups, there's two sides of the story, and they get real nasty, so
who knows? Pick a side.
Focus on addiction. The film centers heavily on Winehouse's addiction issues, often neglecting her musical achievements and contributions, resulting in a one-dimensional, reductive portrayal. That was the point. They were trying to highlight or bring up the addiction, because when one is addicted, they are fixated. They are only about that addiction. So, from the perspective of the individual, which resonates with me, that's all there is. You don't care about the fame. You don't care about your art. It's all about supporting the addiction or dealing with the falling out of it, of the results or effects of it. So it makes sense that it would appear that the addiction is the only thing that's important because, well, it was. Sorry.
Marissa Abella's performance.
Marissa Abella, the actress that portrayed Amy Winehouse in this movie, did an amazing job. She did a really good job. I was quite impressed with her. She reminds me of the way she studied. I watched some podcasts and things like that about her and interviews. The way she studied Amy Winehouse reminds me on a level like Jim Carrey on Man to the Moon, where he played Andy Kaufman. Don't think she went that hardcore. She's a little young. I doubt she did that. Dang, she did a really good job. So apparently, even though she had no singing experience really, I mean, she had had some singing in theater, but meh, she said it was pretty meh. They had already bought the rights to the music. So they didn't need her to learn to sing. They were like, well, if you want to learn to sing, that'd be key. But if you can't pull it off, doesn't matter. You can mouth it. You can dub it. We can dub it for you. No pasa nada. Don't worry about it, dude. We got ya. At which point she says, no, I got you, son. And she ended up learning how to sing. She spent, I think, 3 to 4 months, 2 hours every day, training her voice to sound like Amy Winehouse. And if you guys heard her, she really does sound like Amy Winehouse. It's quite impressive, in my opinion. Something that she did that was super good that I see a lot of actors completely fail on. They'll act drunk or they'll act high. They'll act super drunk or trashed for about 2 seconds. And then on the third phrase, they're back to being sober. Like, weren't you drunk? Shouldn't that affect your whole character for the whole scene? Marissa did an amazing job with this. I could tell when she was drunk, Amy, when she was high, Amy, on heroin, when she was dealing with her anorexia. I could feel it all. Or love addiction, like that. Each thing has like an energy to it, and you can tell them like, she's being all love addiction. She's all being fantasy. Any inaccuracies or issues with the movie isn't on her part. She did an amazing job. Not on her. She did A+ work. Even the critics who are snobby are admitting that.
Beyond the critics. How films can resonate.
The films can resonate deeply with people, even if mainstream society doesn't care about them. Often, it's the emotional and relatable aspects that connect with viewers, not the content, quality, or budget. For example, the Twilight series received mixed reviews from critics, but resonated deeply with young adults. The cheese didn't matter. Fans connected with themes of forbidden love, identity, and belonging, making it a cultural phenomenon. Personally, I enjoyed the Twilight series thanks to the supernatural elements of the theme, with great power comes great responsibility, and walk softly and carry a big stick. I appreciated the focus and centeredness it depicted, even though I tolerated the teenage romance.
My personal experience.
Back to Black, I connect with it in the opposite way of instead of being in control and centered and having a lot of power and being able to not tear everyone apart or eat everybody, like in Twilight. My connection with Back to Black is like, well, losing control, being pulled into an addiction, being absorbed by it, living for it, serving it. It's your master, you're its slave. Today I have a fairly stable relationship with my wife, I'd like to think. Back in the day when I was young, I would have these relationships that women would be without knowing it. I had this image of a woman, but I don't even know these women when I think about it. I put so much fantasy. I took an image of an ideal woman and put that on them after a couple of dates. I couldn't even see them. Here I was creating them, putting them on a pedestal. I noticed even earlier on, gosh, these people, when I have this relationship with these women, I put them on this pedestal. It's insane. I'm walking like in a weird dream fantasy state all the time. I'm obsessing over them all the time. There's these highs, but then they say one thing, do one thing that doesn't validate that fantasy, and now it's the complete opposite. I'm like, I wonder if this fantasy and nightmare reality is, if they're bedfellows, if you know what I'm saying. And that is what I felt like I really related to, is that feeling of that new love, that new romance, that love addiction just grabs you. And it does. It does make everything else seem unimportant. And that's how they portrayed it. And that's a big reason why I liked it.
What may be relatable to some?
Back to Black makes the central emotional drama of Amy Winehouse's final years clearer to the audiences by elevating her relationship with Blake Filder Civil to a position it actually had in her life. And that is my point, guys. This movie isn't a snapshot of her entire life. It focuses on two addictions: love addiction, codependency, and substance abuse, mainly alcohol, but also other drugs. Criticizing her is easy, and it was done constantly while she was alive. Her intense codependent love and her struggles with drugs and an eating disorder, anorexia, were very public and very painful. This reality affected her deeply and influenced her music. Back to Black captures this period, and without her relationship with Blake, many heartfelt and relatable songs wouldn't exist from that album. Here are a couple of songs from the album Back to Black, and their meanings that are clearly related to Blake. Back to Black. The song Back to Black describes the end of a relationship and the return to a state of depression and or sadness. It explores themes of heartbreak and loss, with the black symbolizing Winehouse's emotional and mental state after her lover leaves her for someone else. You Know You're No Good. This song highlights Winehouse's self-awareness and acknowledgement of her own flaws and infidelities. It details a troubled relationship where she admits to her mistakes and the impact they have on her partner, conveying a mix of guilt and resignation. And lastly, we have the very well-known Rehab. This song details Amy Winehouse's refusal to go to rehab despite her management's suggestions, reflecting her struggles with addiction and her defiance against those trying to help her. The lyrics convey her belief that she didn't need rehabilitation, instead opting to handle her issues on her own terms. No one can truly help you but your higher power. See, you say you might not believe in a higher power, but if you're drinking all the time or you're putting people on pedestals and you obsess over them all the time, I got bad news for you, buddy. Buddy. They are your higher power. Crappy one. So you have to admit you're powerless over that addiction. And that is on a level that you can't just think it. You have to really feel it. It's got to be proven to you. And hopefully you snap. Many people can relate to these songs because they are stages of relationships and the troubles and the dysfunction and the adventures of love addiction and intense trying to have a relationship and it being super hard to deal with. That honeymoon period, man. It's
a hell of a drug.
Another part that really resonated with me, there was a part where they're like having their drama dysfunction and running away from the paparazzis, who, that's a whole nother weird thing. They run away, Blake and Amy, and they're in the alleyway, and there's no one but them. And it's so crazy, because here's this super famous woman, like crazy famous, like world famous, and she's alone with her partner. And I don't know if they're doing drugs or not. I kind of like they were doing drugs, but it was like that bubble where it's just them. There's no one else. It doesn't matter that she's super famous. They don't care. Neither one does. And that reminds me of that too, where you're in this bubble. I don't know. Can you guys remember, like, when you're in a new relationship, you're suddenly, like, your logic's all skewed. You don't want to hang out with your friends as much. You can't see anything wrong with that person, but you have, like, a voice in the back of your head saying, there's something wrong, but it's not hooking. I don't care. It's like this rise of the ocean of this passion for this person that overrides those other sensations and emotions that arise. So you can't sense that you should see red flags. I think we all go through that. I mean, those get adjusted or changed based on pain and suffering from previous relationships, ideally. And then we learn and we adjust, and eventually like, I know this isn't good in the long run, dude. You're out of here, bro. And don't you agree, staying in that drama is a great way to avoid that emotion? Back to Black certainly has its flaws, particularly in failing to present a comprehensive picture of Amy Winehouse's life. Critics have pointed out its superficial approach and focus on sensationalism. However, the film excels in depicting the intimate and destructive nature of love addiction and substance abuse, turning these into a haunting narrative of fixation and fantasy. Marissa Abella's outstanding performance brings depth and authenticity to Winehouse's character, making it a poignant slice of life portrayal. Look, you may not like the movie, and that's fine. I wasn't a huge fan of Amy Winehouse's stuff. I knew her, I liked her music, I related with her struggles, but I think this movie does have something everyone can resonate with. And her album also has something everyone can resonate with. So if you can resonate with her album, I think you can resonate with this movie. Yes, we'd like a movie that encapsulates all of this. Because like at the end of this movie, you're like, oh, what? As far as a slice of life and an exaggeration of an aspect of her life that was a big deal to her, I think it did a really good job. In conclusion, another reason why this movie resonated with me, the all too familiar battles with addiction and the futile search for external solutions to find balance. In summary, while Back to Black has its shortcomings, it offers a valuable portrayal of Amy Winehouse's life through Marissa Abella's compelling performance. If you approach the movie with an open mind, you might find a connection with the universal struggles it portrays. Thanks for watching my video discussion of Amy Winehouse Back to Black movie. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Until next time, peace. Yeah, boy.
What? Because I have a little conversation with somebody?
Constantly, and I am not.
What? If I was having